4:23.
Musa, it's Reggie. Who? From Bakersfield. Oh, yeah, Brother Reggie. How you doing? Hey, I'm good, man. You know, I used to run youth empowerment zone. Yeah, I remember. You live up this way? Not too far. Not too far. We're just moving. That's good news, brother. We have a growing community here that I'd love for you to be a part of. Well, we're just getting settled, so we'll just have to see about that. All right. Well, come on, brother. Now, you got to remember, it's hard for people to take no for an answer. I can come out to where you stay. We can talk. No, that won't be necessary. All right, but then you have a minute now? Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. I just go over there, assign the package, then come back over here. Don't do nothing stupid. I don't have any problem with a bullet in your head.
That's ridiculous.
Hey, Reggie.
Hey, it's me, Reggie. You know, I was in a Nutty Professor. I was in a whole bunch of movies. I don't know how my name got to be Reggie.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
And
kind
I don't know how I got to be from Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, she twisting up stuff on
She
that.
said acquaintance, somebody out of nowhere, his
Yeah.
acquaintance. That's crazy.
Out of nowhere,
When
yeah.
actually, like we said, you drove them to the post office.
Yes, I did. Because he didn't want her to drive. Because she was
But we'll
getting
get in,
Yeah.
we're gonna get into the reason why that, because I know that's in the transcripts. So tonight we're gonna be focusing on Hannah's testimony, and that's what we're gonna be doing. So, Crystal, whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah. Before we open, I just wanted to do. Um, we talked about this. Updating everybody on part one and part two of Michael's testimony. So we hope everybody watched part one and part two of Michael's testimony. A few points we wanted to make is that there is still a lot of healing that need to be done in our family. Some growth has been made, some growth haven't, and I haven't seen it. We all know mental health is a priority in all of our lives. I mean, that's if you care about your mental health. And it's a real problem. I know it's a real problem in our family. A lot of people live with some of these things, and some people choose to get help, and some people don't. We're all individuals, and there was a lot of things in Mike's testimony that really bothered me. And the number one thing that bothered me is the situation being what it is. Just reading part one and part two was really triggering. I know to you, Richard, too. And I know it was triggering to you, Hannah. Yeah. And I'm not judging anyone, and I'm not here to judge anybody, but I'm speaking on a topic. It's a health topic concerning, mental health. And so I pray that everyone just get, the help that they need. So I wanted to mention two things from Michael's testimony, just giving a little update, and also giving the audience, if you haven't seen part one and part two of his testimony, watch it. Our father was a manipulator. He was a charmer. He would pretend to like us when he didn't. He would pretend like he was married. He was not married. And it weighed on all of us heavily. He could whip the charm on anybody, because that's all I heard from a lot of people, is that how charming, he was and all of that. And so I'm just speaking from, my point of view from knowing him and, being raised by him, that just don't become what our parents was. So now we're going to move into the testimony, and I
And
hope.
before we go further,
Hmm.
we're gonna be doing like we talked about, Crystal. We're gonna do a video on turban syndrome. So I got my turban.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk about that. I know we mentioned it in Michael's testimony. We
and
said
that's
it
a
before,
serious. That's a
but
that's a serious
mhm.
issue right there.
but we're gonna talk about that because that's gonna be yeah, that's gonna be very interesting. Just let
So
y'all know what's coming.
are these turbans related to Muslim, Hindus, or Sikhs? Which one's the Swami? Well, everybody, Christian even wear turbans. So,
Yeah,
but I'm
everybody can wear a turban, but we're gonna with it symbolize what it represented in the home, what the symbolism
Yeah,
was in the home.
yeah.
oh,
So
the
we're gonna
hierarchy of the
yeah the
turban.
hierarchy yeah. So we're gonna go into it, talk about
Hmm.
that.
So let me know when you're ready. Hope everybody's ready
You can
out
go in right
there.
now. Y'all don't have to respond to this. I'm about the someone. Let me just. You don't have to respond to it. I was gonna put it on the screen. Just good out. Yes, say good afternoon, whatever.
Good
But it's all
afternoon,
good.
people. I am at work right now cleaning up my school, but I am looking forward to the intel. Thanks again. Oh, you're welcome. Especially being at work.
Yeah,
Who's this
yeah.
person's name?
It's
Anthony
the
Singleton,
yeah,
1988. Oh,
Right.
well,
Oh,
appreciate
that's
that.
good.
yeah.
Especially being at work. Thank you for
We're
your
gonna be like
support.
DMX. X gonna give it to you. We're gonna give it to you tonight. Some
Yeah,
intel.
Yeah, this is going to be really deep tonight. So hopefully everybody is watching. And if you have any questions, you can always comment, but be kind. So we're rolling into Mr. Hampton, who's here with us tonight.
I thought I was Hanif.
Well,
Oh, I'm.
we're
Oh, yeah.
gonna we're gonna call you Mr. Hampton
Okay.
because that's how Julie Baldwin cross examined you.
Okay.
So she starts off first with Mr. Hampton. When did you meet Mr. Muhammad? And Mr. Hampton states, I met Musa and his son Marcus at Riverside Mosque after a Friday Juma service. What was the service? It was a Friday Juma Muslim day of worship to Allah, where a community of men and women joined together, almost like church, but Christians have services on Sunday. Okay, how long had you known Mr. Muhammad? And Mr. Hampton states, let's see, I met him in, I believe, between 1990 or 1991. And we became sort of like friends because I had an encounter with some rude people at a store, and he stood up for me and helped me out. That's how I first got acquainted with him. And then Julie asks him, did you know Mr. Muhammad's wife, meaning our mother? And Mr. Hampton states, I did not know his wife. I knew he was married, but I never saw his wife. When I visited his home, I heard her voice in the kitchen telling Musa to come serve me a plate. And I recalled there being a curtain up in front of the kitchen area. And Julie asked, did you ever see Mr. Muhammad yell, curse, or beat any of his children? And so Mr. Hampton stated, yes, on one occasion when meeting Musa, I heard him cursing at Marcus. Then a few other times I witnessed him at that same bridge area cursing at his son when leaving the mosque after Juma. And then Julie asked, and did you say anything to Mr. Muhammad? And so Mr. Hampton says, as a matter of fact, I asked, was everything okay? And then I told Musa he needed to calm down. And I told him I had seen him yelling at his son quite a few times. So Julie asked, and was Mr. Muhammad angry at you for interfering? And so Mr. Hampton says, no, he actually told me you're right. And then he said he was having problems with his son.
Mm.
And so Julie states, okay, did you know how many children Mr. Muhammad had? So Mr. Hampton states, at that time, I only knew of Marcus, Michael, Curtis, Christopher, and the twins. I had never seen or been around any of his daughters. I found out he had 13 kids after he was arrested. And Julie asked, how did you find that out? So Mr. Hampton states, I was sitting in the car when the sheriffs, three or four of them, entered through the side gate at the Awanga Estates property. So there was three or four sheriffs that entered into the side gate of the Awanga property. Where did the sheriffs go? Julie asked. And he said, Mr. Hampton said they went to the front door and knocked on it. And Julie said, what did you see after that? And Mr. Hampton states, I saw Musa and Salima step out the front door, and there was a little girl standing beside Salima. Did you ask any questions? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. I asked one of the officers what was going on and could I leave. They took a look at my driver's license and told me that this did not involve me and to wait until they gave me clearance to leave.
Yeah, Crystal, hold on for a second. I want to ask Hannah a question. Hannah,
Mhm.
did the police officers go to the garage and pull anybody out of a garage?
No, front door.
Okay,
no.
I just want to make that clear because the movie has it as if the police that ran to the
Yeah. I know that whole situation is fabricated, because when you asked me the question, I was wondering, was you talking to me or was you talking to Reggie? Now, Reggie is the guy in the movie who's supposed to be me, who's kind of like me, but it's not me. And you know how that one goes. And, it's a whole alter ego situation. That's, it's a felonious situation. That's ridiculous. But I guess we get more details about, about that. But
Also,
no, it wasn't no helicopters. Wasn't no SWAT team coming out, SEAL Team 3 didn't drop out the sky. None of that stuff happened,
Yeah, I just want to make it very clear because you were up there, so no police officer, no kids, nobody came out of a garage.
I was out front of the house in a vehicle.
And that little girl standing beside Laura, that was her daughter.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That was Marion.
Marion, okay. And her son didn't live in the home, so
no, he wasn't out.
And we made this clear multiple times. I just wanted because you were up there, and we're reading the transcripts. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So after he asked for clearance to leave, police told him that it didn't involve him and just to wait until they cleared up everything, then he could leave. So Julie said, what happened after that? And Mr. Hampton said, I overheard Musa saying that Salima had lied. He mentioned that she threw out all her groceries last night to the officers and that what she had done was set him up. That's when I saw police taking him away in handcuffs, and there was an army of children coming out of the house crying. That's when I discovered he had a bunch of children and some daughters. Okay. After police left, what did you do? I got ready to leave myself, but the kid's mother asked me if I could take her to bail her husband out of jail. And did you take her? Yes, I did. Had you had any issues yourself with Mr. Muhammad in the past? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. He stole funds from out of an account that I trusted him with, about $25,000. He took a car and a motorcycle, and my mother and father tried to retrieve all my items from him because I had got in some legal trouble myself, and he had my possessions and would not give them to my parents. So what did you do? After about 4 years, I had not seen or heard from Musa. My plan was to sue him. When did you encounter Mr. Muhammad again? So Mr. Hampton says on February 19th of 99, somewhere in between there, I was in Clark's Nutrition Center getting some vitamins, and Musa ran into me. He was very surprised And that's when he told me he had some settlement money coming in and that he would pay me back. And Julie states, did you believe him? And Mr. Hampton said, no, not really. It was just in my head to still sue him.
Mm.
See? And Julie asks him, Mr. Hampton, look at Exhibit 23, which, if you all remember, Exhibit 23, we all pretty much in all our testimonies had to look at Exhibit 23. It was a weapon. Do you remember filing this police report on Mr. Muhammad March 6th of 1994? And he says, yes. Musa got angry and pulled out a gun on me. He threatened to shoot me because I disagree with something he did not like. Okay, so I'm going down. And when I told him that it was about the guy upstairs that lived above him, and the guy told me that Musa was abusing his children. And when I mentioned it to him, and I told him that I knew that the guy had told me some things he was doing to his children, when I mentioned it to him, he got angry. So I mentioned to him I was going to get them help, and he pulled out a gun on me. What happened after that? I ran and got on my motorcycle and went somewhere and called the police. So Julie asked, look at this object. Was this the gun he pointed at you? And Mr. Hampton stated, it looks like it, but I'm not for sure. It probably was the same one.
It was probably, I think it was an automatic weapon.
Probably. So Julie said, did you ever witness Mr. Muhammad beating his children? And Mr. Hampton states, no, never. And if I did, I would have gotten them some help. One of his sons, Marcus, was always coming over to my apartment staying, but he never told me what his father was doing. He just said his father kicked him out. But I really could not get anything out of him when I asked him.
And check this out. I want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's not true, but I was told, oh, Hannah, if he saw everything, he knew everything that our dad was doing to us, which I knew it wasn't true, but that's what I was told. So, I know that in the transcripts, it's showing that you didn't know anything, Hannah. You know what I'm saying? And I knew you didn't know anything from the beginning, but like I said, one of our siblings told me, and then the other sibling agreed with it. Whatever reason why, I don't know.
There had some interior motives there, because we had all talked previously, and they all disclosed to me so many things that had happened. Mm-hmm. And when they disclosed to me, because early on, I didn't know what was happening. I was figuring like, okay, everybody's trying to support them. Mm-hmm. And so, hey, I joined the club too, trying to support them and trying to figure out what was going on. But then when they told me what had happened, and I was shocked, and they said, well, there's no way you could have known because he wouldn't do anything around you, Mm-hmm. He put on this perfect role. I mean, I thought he had the perfect kids, because they were really obedient and, in order and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes that's a sign right there because kids that are too straight, I mean, these kids was like perfect. They wouldn't do anything wrong. And he'll say something, he'll jump to it real quick. It wasn't, and looking back on hindsight, that's not normal because kids, they mess up every now and then, do a little thing, big.
And when I think about it, I understand why they said that. Well, the two that one that said and the other one that agreed is because they didn't want to talk about the transcripts or anything online. But I was the one before all this started, even with the movie, was telling everybody, well, get the transcripts. But the movie came out, and then Crystal, you decided decided to try to get it, but then it took almost another year just to get them. So
yeah, that was a tough.
But it goes back to what you said, is that the person or persons that told you that
their interior motives.
No, they don't know what abuse is.
Yeah,
they don't know what it is. Still, that's why I said in the beginning, is that there's still a lot of healing to be done in our family. And I mean getting actual therapy and for the rest of your life, whether you think you need it or not, you know. Okay. She says, let me back up. She says, let's go back to the Awanga home. Had you been visiting that home? And Mr. Hampton states, Musa invited me over for dinner a few times, but I never stayed overnight in his home. It just wasn't allowed. Did any of Mr. Muhammad's children tell you about any abuse? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. After about 7 or 8 months when he was arrested, I did some sort of intervention with 6 of the siblings. And I know who the siblings was because I was one of them.
We had counseling sessions. Or family counseling.
A lot. When I say a lot, Rick, I mean a lot.
It was
so for those of our siblings who's watching, they know the ones who spoke to him and told him all of this stuff because I was one of them.
It was tough. It was cathartic. People, some people had breakdowns, but for breakthroughs, which was a good thing because after when they break down, build them back up to let them know that's okay. It's gonna help you grow.
Okay. Did any of Mr. Muhammad's children tell you about any abuse? And he goes, I'm going back again. He says, yes, about 7 or 8 months after Musa went to jail, I did sort of an intervention with 6 of the siblings. Julie said, and you are married to Mr. Muhammad's daughter, right? And he says, yes. He says, she says, what did Mr. Muhammad's children tell you about the issues with Mr. Muhammad? All of them, Mr. Hampton said, told me Musa had abused them and that their mother was a battered woman. Did they give details? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. The older sister, Lakeisha, Tiffany, said Musa would beat their mother and that Richard and Marcus, the other 2 older brothers, saw him beating her up when they were little kids. What about the other children? And Mr. Hampton states, Crystal, Sharon, Marlon, Michael told me they did not remember Musa beating their mom up. Only the other 4 children did. How did this make you feel? And Mr. Hampton said, I felt terrible that Musa had pretended to be a certain kind of man, but for me to find out all the bad stuff he did, it was just shocking to my soul. I was supporting him and believing him at some point, but when his kids told me all the things he did, I stopped supporting him. I cut him off completely, and I even stopped going to visit him as well. So Julie says, you mentioned you took Miss Bodie to bail her husband out, right? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. It was one time after he was arrested, she bailed him out. And then there was a second time she tried to bail him out. And she had me to take her, Marcus, and his sister Crystal to Zips Bell's bombing to bail Musa out. How much money did Miss Bodie have to bail her husband out? She had round about $5,000. And what happened after that? After the second paperwork to bail him out had gone through, I drove Musa's wife and his son Marcus and Crystal back to the hotel. And I overheard Marcus saying he was afraid for them. And he told his mother they should leave before he gets out. And what happened? Julie asked. And so Mr. Hampton said the telephone in the room rang. It started ringing, and Marcus picked up the phone. And Musa started yelling, saying he did not want me around his family. Right here. Mr. Hampton, he didn't want him around his family. Okay. How did that make you feel? Mr. Hampton said it made me feel used because I was helping them because their mother asked me to. What took place next? Julie asked. Mr. Hampton says Musa told me and his family that he was going to kill us all. And he said, I'm going to bury you in the desert, chop all your heads off, and no one will find you.
Now let's stop right there. Didn't
Hmm.
Laura use that in one of her interviews?
Yeah.
So
Quote
how
the
does
whole thing. She used
yeah,
the
and
whole
then
thing. Hmm.
why would they even give her this information when this
Yep.
case wasn't about her? And then she's using it, you know, for monetary gain, for getting paid for, all these interviews and things.
Yeah.
It's funny because some of the timeline, when we had, I was just thinking, I was reflecting when we had the talks, and we had the council session, and at first, I never forget, everybody told me that they saw, their mother had gotten abused by the dad, and certain ones of them, and so then later on after we went and got her out, I said, hold it, but they talked about story. They talked, well, put it like this. They talked about the stories about her being abused and story, and all of them had the same stories. But come to find out, this story was told to them by Keisha, and so
Mm.
and they said, oh, I never saw it, and I was baffled out of my mind because we had went down to get her out, and with the what was that? Not the public defender, the district attorney. And after that, I was like, I never asked, forgot to ask them, is this what you saw? They was like, no, we were told the same story. I was like, it was a situation where they told a story during that time, like they actually saw it, it was there. I think because that was the training that he probably gave them whenever time the, children's services would come over to the house and stuff like that. So they would have all their stories in line and stuff like that.
Yep. So she said, what took place? Okay, let me go back to down to the bottom. That's when the Bells bombing overheard Mr. Muhammad threatening all of us, and he told his wife that Musa could not receive any more calls and that they would not release him because of the threats, and that they had to report the threats to the district attorney. Okay, so Julie states, let's go back to the atmosphere in the home. Did you ever see Mr. Muhammad ever abuse his children or those women in the home? And Mr. Hampton said, I never saw
No.
Musa abuse his children ever, nor did I see him abuse any women. I didn't know none of those ladies. And like I said before, I only knew Musa and his sons only. I didn't know his wife. I had never even seen her face. So Julie said, when you went to visit Mr. Muhammad, did you stay over at his house at some point? And Mr. Hampton says, when I visited, there was one designated spot, and that is where I stayed in the living room. If I had to go to the bathroom, one of his sons would escort me, mostly Marcus or Michael, and they would escort me back to the living room. I was
Hold it
not
right.
allowed.
Hold up right there.
Oh,
They were
Mhm.
escorting you, Hannah, because they had the turban.
yeah, they had
I'm just
right.
saying, but that was going on. That's why he had them. It was either Marcus or Mike.
It was
They was the
Marcus
ones
there
that
though.
really.
No, this was
Marcus wasn't
because
there.
no,
Was
Mm-mm.
this was
okay? It's
because
Michael. Okay.
throughout him knowing Dad,
Okay.
that when
Okay.
he had been at any of our homes,
Oh
that
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah,
see
he
what
yeah,
you're
was
yeah.
saying.
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
escorted by Marcus
right.
By
or
one
Oh
Michael.
yeah.
or Mike. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Still,
yeah.
during
still,
that
but
time.
still, yeah, but still the same thing. The turban. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they definitely had the turbans back then.
yeah,
And it was funny because they was talking about they still escort you to the bathroom, and then they had this superstitious hadith saying of Prophet Muhammad that you got to step in with your right foot and then step out with your left foot, and you it was great. I was like, what? And it blew my mind. Like, what the heck is this stuff?
I know there's a hadith that said the Prophet Muhammad said you can only which chain you use the white whip, but that's off the chain.
Yeah. See, that's
I heard
that.
that. I heard that
Yeah,
before.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
it is, and they got a whole bunch of stuff that's really that is definitely off the
That's
chain.
really out there. Yeah,
And the different versions of it, because they have so many different versions of these hadiths and
yeah,
so many
yeah.
hadith
They do.
writers and all this other
Yeah.
kind of stuff, compilers, and then they
Mhm.
say these are authentic, these are sahih, and these are these, and this is
Mhm.
that, and then feed them into AI and go ask them about the hadiths, and you'll get a whole bunch of. It'll go to so many different
Nope.
cultures and beliefs and, and faiths, the superstitions and stuff right now.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Okay, so mostly Marcus or Michael, and they would escort me back to the living room. I was not allowed to walk around his house or roam anywhere in his house.
Mhm.
And so Julie asked, let's talk about Laura Cowan. And he says, who? She says, Laura Cowan. He said, I didn't know her name was Laura Cowan.
Salima.
I knew her as Salima. Okay, well, let's talk about Laura Cowan. So he says, okay. Did you know Laura Cowan? And Mr. Hampton says, no, I did not. I met her in Clark's Nutrition Center after 5 years, maybe 4 years of not seeing Musa. That's when he told me she was his second wife. I did not know her name. I just remember him complaining at the register that she had spent over $400 on things she had bought. I asked him about Marcus, and he told me that Marcus had left and went back east. Mm-hmm.
Back at Clark's nutrition store, I never forget that day. And before I even ran into him in the store, she was over there getting meats. And she seemed to be some kind of bougie, pushy type of arrogant person. That was just the vibe that I got from her. And so I was just like, wow, because at one time she had said something, I got away from her real quick. And so anyway, eventually he came up from behind me because I saw him and I saw him and I was playing like I didn't see him. He came behind me and grabbed my hand up. And so anyway, we got to talk and he said, this is my wife. And then I had I looked, I was like, oh, it was just, it was a bad vibe. First time I met her and everything because she was in there shopping and she was in there getting the top of the line stuff.
That was her.
That's for sure.
That was her. Top of the line.
Yeah, she
top of the line.
And this was in February, right?
Yeah, February. Clark's Nutrition.
So she wasn't locked in. So she wasn't locked in the garage. Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah, when I first met her, she's in Clark Nutrition buying stuff, and she putting the B in Bush. She put it like that. That's how it was. My first impression of her. And it's funny because when I see the lasting impression, when you see the citrusy turn into something else, as we'll go through it, as the individual type of character that she is, she is a piece of work, from being abuser that she's been, as we all do know now. And if people want to watch the channel, they'll see all the different stories about Laura Cowan, Salima, or was Laura Lacey. She got so many different names.
A lot of names.
Aliases,
a lot of names.
She has a lot.
Yeah.
That right there is multiple red flags.
Okay, so he says, I asked him about Marcus, and he told me Marcus left and went back east. Julie states, what was Laura buying? And Mr. Hampton says, what I saw was a bunch of groceries. Julie says, did Laura appear afraid of Mr. Muhammad? And Mr. Hampton says, no, she did not. As a matter of fact, Musa told her it was time to go, and she immediately started arguing with him, saying there was more stuff she needed. And he said, but you had already spent $400 and something. I have kids I need to feed. And Julie says, what happened after that? And Mr. Hampton says, over a period of 2 months, as I was visiting Musa's home in Awanga, I noticed both of them talking against each other. Musa told me Laura was beating her son and that she had did some identity theft and was involved with selling guns from her and her husband's businesses. Laura told me she was afraid of him and that she needed help. And what did you do? And Mr. Hampton said, I told her to call the police on him. And there was maybe 3 officers at one point when we were sitting in the mall, standing right there where she could just walk over and say something to them, and she never budged. And did you think she needed help, or was she afraid? Did she look like she was afraid? And Mr. Hampton says, I thought she was honestly trying to make herself look good because she was always yelling, cursing, screaming, and arguing with Musa. And he took her and the other ladies everywhere they went, everywhere he went. That is what I saw. And I saw tons of money being spent on them. Julie says, so you don't think Mr. Muhammad was beating these women or holding them against their will? He says, no, ma'am, because I saw the person Laura was. Never did I once see him do anything that would be abusive. So Julie Baldwin states, did you know his third wife, Adrian? And Mr. Hampton says, I did not know her, but I had seen her selling incense in Riverside for, you guys know who, right?
Homeboy from outer space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I did know one thing about her is that she was smoking a pack of cigarettes, and she was a full blown 9 months pregnant, it looked like, and she was just blowing and smoking cigarettes. Got out of the car, lit a cigarette, and started smoking.
And it was annoying as
And
heck.
Julie states, did Musa say anything about Adrian smoking while pregnant? And Mr. Hampton said he told her it was unhealthy, and she yelled the F-bomb at him. So she says, I have no further questions. Now, you see how his testimony went smooth?
Yeah.
With Julie?
Mm-hmm.
It went smooth with her. So we rolling
She's
into...
really guarded in that question.
Yeah.
Really.
I wanted her to elaborate more on why was Adrian smoking a cigarette at 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
That was true. I even had words with, I even had words with Adrian about her.
Wait.
Hannah, if you said that Musa told you that she was selling guns with her husband.
Yeah. Yeah, guns, yeah, and all kind of, and it's funny because I really see, the thing is, I know the first time I actually met her was in what was that at Clark's, but previously before that I had another friend of mine who I knew, but I didn't know that he was purchasing guns from. I didn't because I went to the store with him, a couple of times, and I know he would just go in and come out with a bag or walk in, and it's funny because he'd walk in there and then they have his order already ready. I didn't know what was going on, but later on I put 2 and 2 together and stuff, and I'm like. And it was a bad time in San Bernardino for the Black community because the murder rate was probably the highest in the country, and specifically from those guns that were being sold, that they were selling out there, and that because it was all out, everybody getting guns. You could buy guns, you could do this, and me being a veteran, I'm like, I don't fool with that kind of stuff, But But they were going for $50 a pop. That's what that was like street words that I heard, But it was something,
I just want to make that clear because in the movie she's saying she didn't know anything, and she's always on these interviews saying, I don't know what my husband was doing. So. Yeah,
well, she was up in that store from the times I remember up in that store. She knew what was going on. Because, like, I didn't even know what was going on. I thought it was just a regular transaction of some papers, some Nation of Islam papers, Final Call, and, and some pastries and some books, something. So,
okay.
Yeah.
When you said that she said she didn't know what was going on, when he was selling guns, of course she would say that she didn't know what was going on because in her life, and she has a whole trail record of being involved in crimes with men, and she's aware of it and she knows about it, but she manages to always ease her way out and avoid getting in trouble. Because you might think that, she was in a relationship with our father and stuff, but you got to look before what she was doing before.
Phew.
And she just was not married to Shabazz. She was married before him too. Because I think Pops or Musa discussed that on one of the calls about she was married before that. And so it was some stuff. So she has a long trail record. To be honest with everybody, the lady has a long trail record, like I said before, doing identity theft and using people. And also being involved in crimes with people, but then easing her way out of them. So it's no telling why the feds locked him up for 5 years. All of a sudden, he's selling all of them guns. They got 3 businesses. They got a bookstore, a boutique, and a fish place. Right there in San Bernardino on Baseline. And guns is being ran back and forth through all 3 of them businesses. But she don't know. And she keeps all the books. And then
that's gonna come out in her testimony.
Yeah. And then not just that, but you have AK Chinese guns at your place. And so mysteriously, your husband, the feds just pop up and lock him up for no reason whatsoever. And you don't know. You're just this poor 25-year-old vulnerable woman.
She wasn't 25.
No. Well, into her 40s, 43, 44 years old.
And she was not the size of that Paige Hurd that played her in the movie.
Nothing like her.
Those two were polar opposite. He was opposite from Stephen Bishop in complexion-wise. Stephen Bishop's on one side, like the Twilight side, and Moose on the midnight side.
But like you had mentioned with the movie, is that they don't talk about the Muslim faith and what they was doing and how they was using the Muslim religion to cover up abuse. It was all a cover-up, the entire thing. It was just a cover-up for them to get away with certain stuff. Even our upbringing, when he testifies and everybody see that, he had an excuse for everything to cover up, to cover it up, why he did certain stuff.
Oh, yeah. He wrote the book on excuses.
So we're getting to Mr. Morales, Musa's attorney. He cross-examines Mr. Hampton.
Yes. And
he states, how long had you known Mr. Muhammad? Mr. Morales asked Mr. Hampton, how long had you known Mr. Muhammad? He says, let's see. Mr. Hampton says, let's see. I met him in 91 up until 93. I didn't see him again until February of 99. And Mr. Morales says, was Mr. Muhammad a good friend to you? And Mr. Hampton says, not really. The friendship had some good moments, but mostly he was mean to me and violent, especially when he pulled out a gun on me. I had to call the police, then tell my parents, and my mother was really hurt because she knew him really well and gave him a lot of advice about raising children. And she felt really hurt that Musa had pulled out a gun on me and told me he was going to kill me. And so Mr. Morales states, do you think Mr. Muhammad abused his children like some of them have said? And Mr. Hampton says, yes, I believe now that he did it because all of the evidence point at them. So he says, what do you mean them? This is what Mr. Morales asked Mr. Hampton.
Yeah, them.
He says, I'm saying I read some of the court minutes. I have listened to the children personally talk to me about how he would beat them and how the other adults were involved.
Yep.
And then he would hide it from a lot of Islamic brothers who came into his home. Mr. Morales states to Mr. Hampton, who told you this? He says, Mr. Hampton says, Musa's sons and a few of his daughters told me that Musa would beat them and tell them they could not eat. And when I or anyone else came over to the home, no one knew because their parents would hide it. They even told me at some point when officers would come over and social workers would come over that they never said anything, that no one never knew because they would hide it. Mr. Morales asks Mr. Hampton, your testimony is you never ever saw Mr. Muhammad mistreat any of his children. And Mr. Hampton says, yes, sir, I never saw it. He was a total different person than me. He came off as a very loving father, and he expressed to me how much he loved his children and especially his wife, and that he thought all of his children was brilliant. What I saw is a loving, caring father. So Mr. Morales asked Mr. Hampton, did you have any suspicion about Mr. Muhammad? And Mr. Hampton says, yes, maybe about two things. In 1994, I was at his house visiting, and I noticed his sons had on large, like men's shirts, my size. And when I ran into him in 1999 of February, almost 5 years later, the kids had on those same clothes from 1994, and they had not grown much at all. When I questioned it, he told me, oh, Hannah, they are cherubs.
There they go. You see the cherubs? And there go the cherubs up there. There they go. Up there in the...
Many angels.
Yeah. And that was crazy.
Yeah. And so...
It took me back for a second because I was like... Because, I mean, I never seen nothing like that. 5 years, you come back, I'm like, these kids look exactly the same, got the same clothes on. And I'm like, how do you account for this? You know... And then when he said, well, you know, they've been blessed, you know, they're angels, they're Malaki, they're Malaki and Arabic, you know, angels and cherubs and stuff. I was like, I thought about it for a second. I was like, wow, maybe your whole household is blessed. But no, he had cursed the whole household.
Yeah. And so Mr. Morales asks Mr. Hampton, what are cherubs? And Mr. Hampton says, meaning angels. He said his kids was angels, that they don't grow much. And on another occasion, I asked him to go with me to an incest meeting that was being held at the Riverside Mosque because they was bringing awareness in the community to child molesters. And Musa told me, oh, Hanif, I'm not going. They don't know what they are talking about. Musa told me things happen in families.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
That was so impactful on me even till today, because we talked about this a couple of weeks before the meeting was happening. It was the interfaith meeting. Muslim, Christian, Jews, any kind of faith was there. And then they were talking about child abuse. And it was so impactful. And one of the questions that I never forget that they said, if you ask somebody of faith, do they believe God forgives a child abuser? And if they say yes, that should be a red flag. Mm-hmm. And so after I left the meeting, you know, when I left and I saw him, you know, and he was telling me about, you know, well, yeah, I couldn't go, I this, that, and other, and all this other kind of stuff, excuses. And then I was just talking to him. I said, nah, I passed up. I wasn't going to ask him. So I decided to ask him. I said, hold it. I said, what do you think about if somebody molests their kids? What do you think happened? And then he was like, oh, well, you know, stuff happens. And, you know, I said, you think God forgives? He said, yes. And look, the biggest burglar alarm went off in my head. I said, I'm going to watch him from here on out. Something is not right because of that specific answer. The big old symposium, you know, meeting that we had and stuff like that, and all the different people that were there, and, you know, experts on child abuse. And, you know, now we know we got a big, it's been a big problem of human trafficking in children and stuff like that to the level that it's at, you know. And I was just like, and then at that point, but that's one thing I was like, a red flag something came in my mind, and it just warmed me. And the thing about it was, and I had thought about one of his daughters, the possibility, you know, so that's a.
Okay. He said they was bringing awareness in the community to child molesters, and Musa told me, oh, Hannah, if I'm not going, they don't know what they are talking about. Musa told me things happen in families. That's when the red flag went up, and I asked him, what do you mean?
I said, that kind of shit don't happen. I went off. I snapped. I kind of lost it for a minute. I was like,
Okay. Mr. Morales asked Mr. Hampton, what did Mr. Muhammad say? And Mr. Hampton said,
Mr.
Minister
Rick,
Rick,
is this
this.
Reggie from that movie? Yep, that's Reggie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's me, Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a big old
Mm-hmm.
fro. I mean, I'm like, hey, this is Reggie name. Oh,
That's
well, I better start with the
crazy.
Reggie because they don't give me an alias of Reggie.
I know, right? All right.
Yeah. And Mr. Morales says to Mr. Hampton, what did Mr. Muhammad say? And Mr. Hampton said he was not going because things happen in families. We got in another argument over his answer and he started threatening me again. So I just walked away and got in my car and left. Mr. Morales states to Mr. Hampton, did he tell you about any abuse that was going on in his home? And so Mr. Hampton says, yes, Musa told me that Laura was beating her son and inflicting abuse on his children. Mr. Morales states, how did Laura inflict abuse on his children? He said Laura had given her son pills to take and he overdosed, so he ran him to the hospital, and that one of his daughters had received some huge football Motrin type pills from Laura, and that left him feeling bad because he punished his children because he thought his children was lying. Mr. Morales said, how did he punish his children? And Mr. Hampton states, he didn't get into details. He just said he was stressed out that he wanted those women out of his house so that he could take care of his wife and children. So Mr. Morales says, what stress did you witness Mr. Muhammad having? So Mr. Hampton states, Musa said Laura wanted him to leave his family and that stressed him out, and that she did not like his wife or his kids, and she was taking up all the finances, and that it was very hard, and he just could not do it anymore. He just could not deal with it anymore. Wow. Mm. So Mr. Morales says, the night of April 5th, 99, if you can walk me through what happened. So Mr. Hampton states, Musa told me a few times just before his arrest that Laura was writing more letters, sending them off to agencies. So Mr. Morales asked, what agencies? And Mr. Hampton says, I'm not for sure which agencies, but he says she was trying to set him up and that she had done some things before that. So Mr. Morales says, okay, tell the courts what you saw the night of April 5th, 1999, leading up to Mr. Muhammad's arrest. And Mr. Hampton states, Musa and I had went down the hill to Albertson's grocery store. And just 2 nights before that, Laura was shopping. She had 3 full carts of food. She had 3 carts?
She probably had more than that. If my memory serves me correct, she had so many carts. For this was crazy. I was like, this is ridiculous. So we were in the van, and I was like, wow.
Well, I know she
I'm thinking, I thought she was shopping for everybody.
Wow.
But oh no, he said, oh, that's her stuff. I was like, her stuff?
Yeah, because you remember that clip you played of Keisha talking to Laura, and she's telling Laura on the Dr. Phil show, she said, Laura, you would go to the grocery store and have 3 to 4 carts loaded with over thousands of dollars worth of groceries, and my mom would have 1 cart.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
For That's 12 true. Kids. For 12 kids. Now, if you do the math on how much it costs to feed 12 kids compared to a woman that got 1 kid, and she's spending over $400 at an expensive store. And Clark's Nutrition, it's a health food store. They are expensive. I've been there.
Back then,
buying vitamins, all types of stuff. They like I would opt to go to Whole Foods or Sprouts to get certain
back
vitamins.
then, I mean, yeah,
but
they were.
they still are. They're expensive.
And they had the cream of the crop.
But even the the food they have is expensive.
Grass fed, no hormone cows and all that stuff. We're talking about back in '99. Yeah.
It's very expensive. So Mr. Hampton states that night of April 5th, Musa and Laura was outside arguing. I witnessed it because I was sitting outside on the car, and they were arguing. He was upset that she had thrown out over $800 of groceries. And that's when he told her she needed to go and that he could not deal with her anymore. He said that he couldn't trust her anymore, nor did he believe anything she said. And you know she said that, right, to Charles White?
Did. She said that Musa didn't trust me anymore, but she don't get it. She doesn't get into what the reason was.
Yeah, yep. Because I know we came back that night, and all the kids ran up the board, especially. She told me, everybody talking at the same time, talking about how she threw the food out there and all that kind of stuff. And then it's like, okay, you're like, Hannah, let's go out here and see what's going on with this food. And I'm like, I'm not walking out there because they got packs of coyotes out there. And so so anyway, we went out there and he had his little weapon with him just because of the coyotes and stuff like that. But it was all that food that was over there by that big rock. It was screwed all around everywhere. So animals had got to it and stuff. It was something. It was crazy. It was real. I couldn't fathom, like, why? Why would you buy all that food and just throw it out? Now we know. Excuse me.
So Mr. Morales states, did you see the food Laura had thrown out? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. Musa came to my car, knocked on the window, and said, Hanif, I need to show you something. And he walked me to the right of the house where the trash cans was. Mr. Morales asked, what did he show you? So Mr. Hampton says, Musa had a huge flashlight. He asked me to hold it and shine it down in between the trash cans and rocks. There was 7 to 8 bags of groceries, frozen chicken, fish sticks, veggies, bread, just food everywhere. There was some coyote-like looking dogs that had ripped and tore open some of the bags. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving on to the next. Just bear with me for a minute. Okay, hold on. I lost my place. Let me go back.
I'll play a little video until you find your spot. Find that video that Keisha was up on. Not quite sure what video it was. Give me a second, everyone.
Dr. Phil, in the beginning, and like I said, Musa was very kind to me. In the beginning, he was helpful to me. Through time, things changed, Dr. Phil. That's all I can tell you. And I was so afraid of him because of the threats and the intimidation. I was fearful of him. I've been slapped, beaten, kicked by him many, many, many times. And to say, for the children to say I was not raped, it's just bewildering to me, because I had a relationship with your father. That's not denied. But as time went on, I wanted out of that madness. I didn't want him to deal with me whatsoever. And when I said no to him, and from my understanding, when you say no, you don't want to be touched. When you say no, you don't want to have sex with someone, and they still put themselves on you.
Being a self-dubbed advocate that's been running around for over 25 years using another family, she's learned all those strategies to sit up there and speak like that. Because there was, like I said, and said over and over again, there was no test, any of that stuff done. And, you know, like I said, all the lies that she tell, all the onus falls on her. Okay, so Mr. Morales says, I want to ask you this. Did you personally know Laura? And Mr. Hampton says, no, I did not know her. I met her, like I said, in February of 99, just a quick hello. And I was even shocked to see Musa because I had not seen him in 5 years. The only contact I had with Laura was when she kept telling me Musa was abusing his children. Mr. Morales said, what do you mean abusing his children? And Mr. Hampton said, she told me Musa was abusing his kids, but you can't see it because he keep people that come to the house closed off. And when she told me this, I said, then why don't you call the police? You know, in our uncle's testimony, she told him the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back and you listen to his testimony, I think it's what, 2-3 parts?
We did two parts.
2 parts. Okay, she told him the same thing. And she actually showed him a legal pad. So what I don't understand, if you was going through all this abuse and your children was going through it, I don't get, why wasn't you reporting all of it, even your kids? Why are you just going to people randomly saying he's doing this to his kids, he's doing that, and you're not getting any help or saying anything about it? You're just going to people telling them that. You know? It just don't make no sense to me.
Yeah, she should have went straight to the police, but she's just...
Yeah. And that's why Hannah said, and when she told him that, he said he told her, why don't you call the police? So Mr. Morales says, how did Laura respond? She just stated she was afraid. There we go again with that. I'm afraid. I'm in fear. I wanted out of that madness. Yes, I was in a relationship with him. Okay, so Mr. Morales says, did you see at any time if Laura was really afraid of Mr. Muhammad? And Mr. Hampton says, not at all. Not at any time when I was around them. I just saw her speaking violent, and she was very intimidating for me how she spoke to him. I never saw any fear of him coming from her.
Mm-mm.
And nor did I.
Oh, no. That's not what you saw.
Mr. Morales says, let's go back to what Laura told you about Mr. Muhammad abusing his children. Did she mention her children was being abused? Or those other 2 ladies? And Mr. Hampton says, no, never. It was only Musa was abusing his children. She never mentioned herself or her children or anyone else. I was visiting the home off and on, and I had no idea of how many people was living in that home. It was just shocking to me when all those children came out when Musa was being arrested. So Mr. Morales says, how about this letter Laura wrote? Was you aware of her writing this letter? And Mr. Hampton says, Musa told me a few days before he was arrested that she was scheming. And Mr. Morales says, okay, so scheming, explain that. So Mr. Hampton says, Musa said Laura was scheming or plotting something to that effect to get rid of him or mess his family up, he said. She writes these letters all the time and have police at his home, but nothing never happens. So Mr. Morales says, did you accompany Mr. Muhammad to the post office? And Mr. Hampton says, yes, a few days before his arrest, he asked me to drive them to the post office. Who is them? And Mr. Hampton says, Musa and Laura. So Mr. Morales says, where was Miss Cowan that day? And Mr. Hampton says, I was in the living room of the house. She walked out the front door as I was heading to the door, and she moved the car up in front of the estate gates. Mr. Morales says, okay, so she moved the vehicle, right? And Mr. Hampton says, yes. And Musa told her that he did not trust her, that you might roll us off the cliff. So he asked me to drive, and I drove them to some tiny little booth looking like post office.
I drove fast as I could because I'm like, I don't want her behind that wheel, and I didn't want him behind that wheel because we're up 4,000 feet up in the mountains and those roads, and he drives. Oh no! And I was like, and her drive. No, I'm not. No. So I drove him to the post office, and here we go with the shenanigans.
So Mr. Morales asked, okay, what happened after that? So Mr. Hampton states Laura got out of the car and went in to the post office. And Mr. Morales asked, did Mr. Muhammad go in with Miss Cowan? Because camera footage do show that Mr. Muhammad did not go in with her.
And we have a video about in a Wonga post office about this whole incident. And if you watch the video on the channel, you'll see the post office, and I'll describe everything that happened on that ride in detail from what we're talking about here.
And Mr. Hampton says, no, he didn't. We just got out of the car and Laura went in only. So Mr. Morales says, what took place after that? And Mr. Hampton said, Musa told me Laura was mailing off a letter and that he did not care because Allah was protecting him.
I looked at that fool. I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, man. I don't know. Hey, both of them was like in the Mad magazine. They had this one spy would be dressed in white and this other one would be dressed in black, and it'd be spy versus spy. They'd be doing each other in constantly, and that's how it was with those two. They were frenemies.
So Mr. Morales says, okay, Mr. Muhammad knew Miss Cowan was mailing letters. And Mr. Hampton says, yes, that is what he told me. And Mr. Morales says, I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Did any of the children tell you Mr. Muhammad had abused them? And he says, yes. Can you name them? And Mr. Hampton says, his daughter Crystal told me everything because we got married. I can't give the other daughters names, really. I know his sons, Marlon, Michael, Sharon, his daughter, Tiffany, and his oldest daughter, Lakeisha, all told me he had abused them. Mr. Morales asks, and are you still friends with Mr. Muhammad? And so Mr. Hampton says, personally, we never was great friends. He did some horrible things to me. After finding out what he did to my wife's siblings and their mother, I stopped dealing with him completely. And so Mr. Morales says, how did you feel after finding out all these things? And Mr. Hampton says, I was shocked. His sons, Michael and Marlon, had told me, Hanif, you just don't know what he kept doing to us. You wouldn't understand the things that he was doing. You just don't know what he does. And I kept telling them to tell me, and they would only give me bits and pieces of things. And Mr. Morales states, have you spoken to Mr. Muhammad's wife? And so Mr. Hampton says, I have spoken to her, and she told me her husband was faking to me and that he was hiding the abuse he had did to her and her children. Yep. And so Mr. Morales says, when did Miss Bodie tell you this? And so Mr. Hampton says, after I think a few months of her incarceration, she spoke to me, and I went to visit her with my wife because they were in some type of disagreement where my wife did not agree with her mother about some things she was doing, and so she wanted to speak to me. And so that's when my wife started venting about all the abuse that all the adults were doing in the home, and her mother got angry with her. Mm-hmm. And she did no longer want her mother in her life because of all of the abuse that her and her siblings had been through. She started not liking me, is what her mother said, because she felt it was both of their faults. At some point, when I found out from her children myself what actually happened, I asked their mother, how does Laura have a relationship with someone who kidnapped her? Ooh.
Oh my God. This heifer.
That's a good one right there. I never even thought about that one. What?
Yeah, because she claimed that she was kidnapped, but she wasn't.
But she said she had a relationship. Yeah. I
never saw it. And I saw the lady up and down the streets riding that every which way and going there. I mean, she had a specific, remember her fast food joint she had down there? She had one down there in Temecula that she had, and that greasy spot. I'm not eating at this place. I'm not eating this crap. It was there. It was the greasy spoon of greasy.
Now that's
spoon.
A deep one right there. Who is that? Anthony Singleton, 1988. Oh, that's a good one right there. Wow. What else did Miss Bodie say to you? She got angry at me because I agreed with her daughter feeling the way she felt, and when I found out from her children what had actually happened, she got upset at me. And what did Miss Bodie say? She started shifting the blame on me and anyone else that she could.
Yeah.
And she did too.
I could have.
Because I'm going to tell you what happened. This is a crazy one. She had a good relationship with Hannah. She really did. And there were some things that took place with Sharon, Tiffany, me, and Keisha. And while a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to say us, because we her kids and we know her really well. And then not just that, but her family know her, and then our dad's family, they know her really well. And I've learned growing up that our mother can sometimes come off when she speaks. She's violent when she speaks. She can be very loud, and she uses a lot of profanity, which I was shocked about, because when it was mentioned to me by two of our siblings that she used profanity, it shocked me. But I saw it myself when it was an incident that occurred with Sharon, Tiffany, and me, and we was trying to speak to her, and she went and got a bat. And when she went and got the bat, Hannah grabbed it out of her hand, because he told her, he said, I'm not going to let you do that to them, and he threw it. So then she went back in the gate, and she got a broom. Now, mind you, she had just got out of jail from doing 17 months. And because we didn't agree with the relationship she was getting in, and because we didn't agree with what happened to us and what she allowed, instead of allowing us a chance to speak to her and tell her how we felt and go to counseling with us, she refused everything. Yes. Y'all wrong. This is what it was like, that we was wrong. Anything we said out of our mouth, we was wrong. Until today, nothing we say out of our mouth to her is right. And even speaking now. It's wrong to her that we're speaking.
It's tough
But
for.
here's the thing. She's mad with all. Some of us for speaking out, or whatever. But it's okay for Laura to go out there and trash your kids and all that, and talk about them, and
Mhm.
steal,
Hmm.
and come up with these stories that's really come from
She's
y'all
even
instead of from
trashed
this family.
hers.
Yeah, yeah. But what I'm saying, but it's okay for Laura to do all that stuff. But
Yeah.
when we go out here and try to, go against Laura and also tell the truth about what's going on, like with the transcripts, that's a problem.
It's
What
tough
it
for
was,
kids.
yeah, but what it
Let me say
was, excuse me, what it was is that she wanted us. You better cut that out.
Okay, I'm next up, everybody.
No, but what it was is that I remember in the beginning that pretty much all our siblings stated to us that she didn't want us speaking about her at all. And she came with the territory. She was there longer than Laura was. She came with the territory. And regardless of what she say till today, she was at fault 100%. I already stated before, and I'm stating again, we already know she was battered. We know the things that happened to her. But she had a lot of opportunities. And when you're given a whole bunch of opportunities to change, there's no way in 25 years you had all those opportunities and you didn't take not one of them to save all of your kids. There's no way.
And something, my point is this: is that the excuse for abusing your kids is that you were abused too? And that still doesn't. If you're abusing, you abuse somebody, you're an abuser. You're still doing the same thing, and that's one of the tough things for some of the siblings to process and get an understanding of what was happening, was even today with that situation with
I
her.
think I think that a lot of them understand it because I understand it. I think it has to do with a lot of protecting, and there's no need to protect no more. There's no need to hide, cover up, and protect anymore or lie because that's not our jobs to do that. And this is just crazy, at our adult ages right now that we have to go. We're speaking about this is because this lady made a movie, and the movie is based off of all of us. That's
Hmm.
just the plain truth. And I don't
Yeah.
care what her followers say. I don't care what, Lifetime say, because we already dealing with them. But that's just the truth. The entire movie is a whole breakdown. It's about our family. That's what it's about. And she was even disappointed in the movie herself because you got the video up here on this channel where she said she was disappointed with Lifetime because the movie was only an hour and a half and they didn't put everything in it that she wanted them to put in it. Bottom line is that if you're gonna fight for the right reasons, not the wrong reasons. Some people are fighting for the wrong reasons. You should be fighting for the right reasons. You speak out against people that treated you horribly. You know, when Laura mentioned on the Dr. Phil show, so this is a bashing Laura day, right? You said bashing Laura day one day. First of all, we won't bashing her, and number two, you've been bashing and using all of us, manipulating stories, fabricating false story. I mean, literally 82 lies that me and you have been through, and it's more that this lady has lied. It's no evidence to it at all. None. Zero. And I'm just like, you've been doing that for years to all of us. And then you want to post a fake legal letter through a realtor firm concerning your life being threatened and the hatred that people have for you. Nobody has hatred for you. You take comments that people make and you turn them into hatred because you know you lied and that's your conscience that's bothering you. Because I've never seen online where anybody has said anything violent to her or that I'm going to do this to you or I'm going to do that to you. I haven't seen it. I'm saying really violent. It's just people going at it like, no, I don't believe the story. Or you were able to get away. You saw it when you came in there, you know? So, ending this, when Mr. Hampton said that she shifted the blame, meaning our mother, she started shifting the blame on me and anyone else that she could. And so Mr. Morales says, I have no further questions after that. And like I said, when a few of our siblings got out of foster care, one of them being Mike, that's when it started. That's when the hate started. Feeding him information, negative information about somebody. Because
She was using the same, same tactics how dad did, train the
yep,
brain. Plus, he was already caught up still in that mentality of I'm passing the turban to you, and being that Marcus wasn't up there, so he was felt like I'm next in line, type mentality. So that's why, you know, mom kind of he was just brainwashing him still.
yeah, but the thing is about Hanif is that every last one of our brothers, they had the utmost respect for him. They all went to the movies, they played basketball, they ate together, they hung out, and all of that. And where all those foul stories came up that I've been hearing, and I ain't even been in the picture, and you know that, for
Yeah.
years, for years, for years. And I'm just finding out stuff, and I'm just like, they know good than our uncles for what they told our grandmother. That's what made me feel bad. No better. That's why I said don't become how your parents are. You know?
Yeah, don't become the monster that you hate.
Really.
But without help, without counseling, and
So that was it for the transcripts. Okay,
yeah,
That
that's
was
it for
it.
Hannah's testimony. Okay,
That was it.
Reggie, you mean?
yeah, Reggie.
Kind of AKA Reggie.
Yeah, you Reggie.
Yep. So
Mm, wow.
another situation debunked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everybody should watch this, because I know a lot of people, they're confused because that's what I mostly see on social media is I'm confused. I'm confused
Because
about
they're
what happened.
yeah, because they're like I said, they're constantly listening to Laura's her portrayal of
Mm-hmm.
everything, and you know here we are with all these videos, but they have to start like I would say start from the bottom and just look at all our videos and look at the live, look at the regular videos. You'll see, what I'm saying, just pay attention, But if you keep following us, you'll get it. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been up for a good while. I'm gonna cut it off right here because that's some other
Yeah.
stuff we have to handle. But
Okay.
once again, thanks for all the viewers for following. If you're following, you're listening. Like, share, and subscribe. If you don't subscribe, like the video, like all our videos, like the shorts, everything. And we'll be back with some more videos next week. All right.
Good night.
All right. Stay and everyone else, just stay tuned for the ending.
My name is Laura Cowan, and I'm being held captive in a garage with my children. Help us. Ahmed, Mary, remember what Mama told you. Yes, if I die, you find someone that you think you can trust and tell them that these papers are on me, okay? Ahmed?